what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast on the special Mindset Monday episodes. I'm here with my co-host, Justin Thorstad.
I like it.
Huh?
Yeah, it's good.
Very festive?
Yeah. Upbeat, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell he's rested.
Yes. So really cool. It may sound like we're gonna tackle on a dead horse here, but we're really not. We've never taken this approach on this topic. I mean, we brought it up multiple times because it's a constant thing, and it's a reality of everyday life. And the topic is procrastination, right? We've talked about, clarity and how that, plays into procrastination and anything that we hold ourselves back from accomplishing or doing or taking action on. However, Justin really, and I don't know if you got this definition from somewhere else or it's you had your moment of brightness this morning and it just came up or whatnot, but it's a really good definition, bro. I'm gonna give you props on that, and it's on how to stop procrastination and identifying exactly what procrastination is. So
yeah. Well, I think before we talk about the process, it's like let's identify what is procrastination first of all. Like let's make sure we're all using the same definition,
right,
so that you know how to incorporate this and implement it into your life.
Right.
And very simply put, like, procrastination is the behavior of avoiding or deflecting against something because you are unwilling or unable to deal with the uncomfortable emotions you think you're going to experience when you take action. I mean, that was kind of long, but you get the gist of it, right? So, and like, show me an entrepreneur that hasn't found themselves at some point or another procrastinating, avoiding, deflecting from taking action on something. Like everyone that's an entrepreneur has something that they're going for, especially if you're going to become successful, right? Like grow and scale. There's uncomfortable things you're going to come up against, right?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people say I'm distracted or I'm a procrastinator. And it's like, that's not true. Those are nice, pretty little common words that we throw out there to excuse ourselves for not taking action. And it's like, it's much bullshit. It really is. Like when someone said, "Oh, I got distracted," it's like, okay, so you lacked focus. What was underneath that? What's driving that? And people usually go to, "I don't know," which is really weird because you're the one doing it. So of course you know. Now you may not be consciously aware, but it is in there, right? And so it's the ability to sit with self and ask these important questions about, like, what's driving my behavior? What is it about my self-image, how I think and feel about me, in such a way that's insufficient to move forward, become successful, right? And so let's take something simple. You're in sales, and there's a prospective client that's going to land you a huge commission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, I hope I don't blow this," right? And so you can inadvertently find yourself not taking action on things to get prepared, to make the phone call. I mean, that's a big one too. People in sales, like cold calls, right? Like, who in sales wants to make cold calls? I mean, I did because I didn't know what else to do. And I was like, F it, man. It's yes, no, on to the next, right? Like very transactional. I'm going to get through law of averages. I'm going to get my win today, right? So I didn't have that big of a deal with it. But cold calling, a big deal, something. Let's take a look at the dynamic of what's really at play here. So I think if I take action, for example, in the cold calls, someone's going to hang up on me. They're going to say, "Stop calling me, F off," and then for some reason, like, that damages my sense of self-worth. But anyways, it's like, I think something bad's going to happen and I want to avoid that. So I'm deflecting from taking action. I'm avoiding, and I'm going to find myself doing something different. It could be anything. Like when you're, at least if you're like me, when there's something that's uncomfortable, you can find yourself doing the most random, dumb shit ever. And like, wait, what am I doing?
I remember at the beginning, in that particular scenario, before I would get ready to make calls. Right? Then just organize my desk, clean everything around me. Next thing you know, I'd be like cleaning the windows. like doing something really stupid to just kind of milk another 5 minutes out of not taking that one action. And I brought it up before, it's to me, procrastination has always been having a lack of clarity. I think it's one of the biggest triggers. I still do. But rolling that into procrastinating because of fear, procrastinating because of lack of self worth, procrastinating because of I don't know, you name it, right? The I think the concept of the fact that we procrastinate because they are uncomfortable emotions, we can't deal with them, makes a lot more sense.
Totally.
And I think, I mean, it's an easier thing to wrap our heads around, right?
Yeah, and so, and I'm not saying this is you, but it might apply at least at some times.
Yeah.
A lot of people lack clarity on what they want or what the strategy is, and they go to confusion, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a choice, man. Because if I'm in confusion and I keep the things foggy, well, now you can't expect me to move forward.
Yeah.
I'm not to be held responsible. I'm not clear yet, right? Now, on the other side of that is some people lack clarity and they feel like, well, if I get into action and I'm not clear yet, something bad's going to happen, right? And I don't want to experience that. It's like, of course you're going to move forward and make mistakes, even if you think you're clear. Like, how often you've started a business or move forward and everything just unfolds beautifully, perfectly, and in the time frame you expected. Like, never. You know what I mean? Like, it always takes longer. There's always things you didn't plan for, you couldn't predict, because you never experienced it before. Like your unconscious incompetence, right? You don't know what you don't know until you know by having the experience. Oh, but you're not willing to have the experience because you can't deal with the uncomfortable emotions of what could happen. But here's the thing. You're certainly not going to experience something beautiful. You're certainly not going to experience success because you're not taking action. You're not moving forward. Are you waiting for someone to bring it to you? Do you know what I mean? And like, it's the whole relationship with uncomfortable emotions and mistakes.
Well, it's
Like,
I mean the clear definition of a catch-22, right? You're stuck in an uncomfortable emotion. To get out of it, you got to do something uncomfortable, but you don't want to do it because you feel uncomfortable.
yeah, but here's the deal.
It's
It's just a negative cycle.
vicious cycle. Yeah.
But like, why are you focusing on, why is the habitual redundant state of something bad's going to happen?
Yeah.
Why not shift that when you notice it to, hey, this could be it. This could be the time. This could be my shot. This could be my win.
Right.
And instead of focusing on that to propel you forward, to empower you,
Yeah.
no. Something bad's going to happen. So who created that story that something bad's going to happen? Where'd that come from? It can only be your mind. Yeah?
Yeah.
And why the hell you're listening to that tyrant who's always wrong,
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, the mind is a beautiful thing, and it's perfect for survival. It's a tool. It's like an appliance. You know what I mean? You give energy to it, your consciousness. However, just the little stories that it runs, like that little voice, man, it doesn't serve. And so that little voice starts creeping in softly. Well, if you call, this is what's going to happen, and you don't like that, you don't want that, and that's going to be uncomfortable. So let's go do the dishes.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, I never do the dishes. Why am I doing the dishes? Yeah. And you got distracted by dishes? Like they jumped out at you and pulled your attention? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's ridiculous.
At the end of the day, I mean, when it comes to simplifying this stuff, right? It's we got to have a clear understanding that the simple fact of being uncomfortable is going to stop us from doing things. Cold water. I mean, you're one of those crazy people who jumps into cold water all the time, right? But for the a regular sane person out there, it's no. Actually, I give a lot of merit to people who jump into cold
but
cold plunges.
this is a good example. Sorry, go ahead.
But so when you're, I don't know, you're standing at the edge of a cold river or pond or whatever, and you're thinking about jumping in, you're going to be uncomfortable. You don't, like, most people, at least, they're not just, unless they've done it before and they have a degree of comfort with that, like they'll stop at the edge and then think and then look around and then do, the whole hesitation thing. And like, oh, I'm going to jump into a cold pool in the hot summer. Like, oh my God, it's going to be cold. And it's, that little thing right there, it's a depiction of, uncomfort.
Totally.
Right?
But so there's the key though, and
So
hence
procrastinate,
my practice with cold plunges is that if you say you're going to do a thing to yourself, I mean the only important person really, you, the one in there, and you go to get an action and you get right up to the line, and then you stop and think about it, inevitably what happens? You psych yourself out and you don't take action. Now you just damage the relationship you hold with yourself, trusting yourself, And if you damage that relationship and you don't trust that's going to be projected. And so it's the ability to give yourself a command and follow it, cold therapy.
Yeah.
But also, think about it. As soon as you get into that cold water, what's happening? The mind is freaking out. The body, all the alarms and whistles or bells are going off, right? Like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. Because in that moment, it gives you the opportunity to notice the mind, notice the body, its urges, impulses, desires. And it begs the question, who's running the show? Me? The one in there noticing the mind and what it's doing, noticing the body?
Yeah.
And sit until those things acquiesce, until they break, until you are the one witnessing and you calm it down. Now, why is that important? Well, we just talked about it. You get into action or not during your day because your inability to handle those emotions.
Yeah.
Well, if you just confronted it first thing in the morning, like what could possibly stop you? What could knock you off balance? What could take you off your center when you've already primed yourself and gave yourself a beautiful reminder and you haven't even left the house yet?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a practice for a reason.
Yeah. I think one thing that kind of, helps me mitigate some of that hesitation and really, thinking about it as a practice is I go back to in the 1900s, Sigmund Freud was a great dude. He came up with a lot of the theories that are modern now.
Who is that?
Sigmund Freud. It's in psychology, right?
Yeah.
And if you haven't looked up any of his works, there's controversy because he was very out there about his opinions on
Those
how the
pioneers
mind develops and whatnot. But he had a lot of groundbreaking theories when it comes to the indoctrination of psychology into everything that we do. But he came up with one of his earliest works was he highlighted the superego, the ego, and the ID. So it's three different sections of the mind, right? And the superego wants to do the right thing. That's the one that follows the values, the morals, the compass. That
Which are constructs, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the ego is the one that the ego portion of the mind. So I don't know, I may be crazy for this, but I kind of see him as three individuals, right? He's walking around my head, and then just telling me to do shit. But I see the ego as the person that or the individual or the side of it that wants to rationalize things, and wants to rationalize based off of whichever wins, because the third one is the ID. The ID is all about immediate gratification. It's all about not confronting the fears, staying outside of that uncomfortable area, and it's usually if we ran our lives through the ID side of impulses, we're never going to move forward, right? We're always going to be looking for that instant gratification, not that more
easy way,
thoughtful. Yeah, exactly. The way of going through life. So, anyways, there's a constant battle between these three, and I think that what happens at least in procrastination, right? The way that for example, me cleaning the windows when I know I'm supposed to be.
I can't even picture that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all right, I don't know, the windows are dirty. I'm just gonna. And it's me thinking, right? It's not that. This is a real thing. I wasn't making that up. Like, I remember this one time, and it hit me. Like, I'm procrastinating. I'm cleaning the windows. I have a lady that does the stuff at the house, and I'm still cleaning like it's just full-blown procrastination. Now, when I step back and I look at it, right, that's my ego trying to rationalize why it's okay to not pick up the phone, not take that action, right?
Because I'm busy right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm putting myself in a stupid busy space.
Yeah.
And then the part of the ID is supporting all those actions, right? When I know that in reality what I want is I want to progress, I want to move forward, I want to create some change in my life, I want to contribute. That's all the super ego side of the or aspect of the internal conversation that I'm having. But it's really broken down into three. I adopted that too because I really do believe it. The more I step back and I look at it, it's like, all right, cool. It's three different buckets, and it's easy to understand when my ID's running the show, when my ego's running the show, and then when the super ego's running the show.
So. The id, familiar. And I just look at it as all three of those aspects. Really boil down to fundamentally the same thing. It's the mind, right? And so another definition I heard of the ego is the unobserved parts of your personality, like when they come out, right? And that voice is very rational in the moment, right? However, it's full of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Let's say that you're going on a diet.
Like,
remember when you were
absolutely. I didn't mean it rationalized in the most positive way.
Oh yeah,
It'll
totally.
rationalize whatever the hell I want to think.
Well, it's just like, okay, as an entrepreneur, you got to understand buyer psychology, right?
Yeah.
Like buyers buy based on emotion and then they justify logically. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Instead of the other way around. And it's like, if the ego is talking, like it because it's loud, but again, going on a diet, right? So you're on a diet and you're forcing obedience because your essence of how you're even approaching the situation is flawed. But that's a whole nother topic. So you say, okay, these are the foods I can eat. These are the foods I'm not allowed to eat, right? Yeah. And then inevitably, like, you're doing good with your forced obedience. You're being a good boy or good girl. And then one night, you're sitting on the couch watching TV, because a lot of people do that. And
your ID takes over.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you could have just a bite. I mean, it's just one bite of chocolate. Come on, what's the big deal? No one's going to know. I mean, you earned it, right? And it just goes and goes and goes until you find yourself eating a piece of chocolate. And then when you're done with it, you get to that state of nothingness, complete with life. And then what happens? Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah. Why'd you eat that? You were doing so good. See, this is why you always fail at everything.
It's the other side of that conversation.
That's the same mind that just told you to eat it. And you're listening to it and taking instructions from it. Yeah. So it's absurd.
So yeah, I mean, bring up the awareness, right? That of why you're doing things, why you're procrastinating. Take a really close look at what space that is coming from. Are you procrastinating because of an uncomfortable emotion? And if so, identify that emotion and see what it is. See if it's part of your superego, right? Of that ultimate version of yourself that you want to achieve. And if it is, you need to get over that shit. Otherwise, you're gonna stall.
Yeah. So the key is to check in with the body when you find yourself procrastinating. Like,
tell me more about that.
Connect to that emotion. Connect to that feeling of like, okay, what's going on here? I'm a little nervous. I got a little fear going. Okay, great. Why? Where's that coming from? Well, because if I do take action, you'll be able to identify it. Here's what's going to go wrong. Like the mind we use for two things. It thinks about how do I get what I want and how do I avoid what I don't want. And 90% of people will do anything and everything to avoid pain versus pursue pleasure. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, my mind is making up a story about what's going to happen. And if I listen to that, it's going to drive my behavior, avoidance, deflection, or action, creating my results. So why don't I just create a new compelling story that makes that one obsolete of like, here's what could go right. I'm going to be proud of myself. I'm going to be empowered. I'm going to go tackle something else when I do this. Because the win is I did the action, not the outcome. People attach their sense of self-worth to the outcome, to the result. It's like, no, that's not in your control. Yes, you can sharpen your skill set and all of that, and that's practical and right. And the win should be, did I take action? And if I take action, man, I feel good about me. I go home and I feel accomplished. Yeah. I feel proud. I feel successful.
You know that you gave it your all.
Yeah, totally. Because you're going to sharpen skill set with experience. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not just role play. You got to apply it. So check in with the story that's causing the uncomfortable emotions, which are driving behavior of avoiding and deflecting. And it's really just your inability to deal with those emotions. And here's the other thing too. Like when you do confront something that's scary, then you thought something bad was going to happen, and in fact something good was the result, man, now you have evidence to remind that I'm not going to listen to that tyrant. I'm not going to give in to the urge and impulse of my body to feel good. Like I can do hard things. I can confront uncomfortable feelings. And if I did that, now what's next, right? Yeah. And to confront those uncomfortable emotions, like I heard a saying a long time ago, the cave you fear to enter, uncomfortable, it holds the treasure you seek. Yeah. And really what that is like self-realization, self-actualization of, oh, I can do hard things. Because if you're not doing hard things, you're not expanding your comfort zone. And if you're not expanding your comfort zone, that means you're going to be left to create the life you say you want within the confines of what you've already experienced. And if that were possible, you'd already have it.
Yeah, and by hard things, I mean it's contextual, right?
Totally.
Like whatever is hard, for you. Or for somebody else might be super easy for you.
It's relative.
It's relative, right? So, the point is pushing yourself, pushing your own boundaries as you go through that process. Procrastination, though, it really comes down to that. And I mean, the more I think about it, the more I settle on it. It's the inability to deal with uncomfortable emotions underneath. Ask yourself what the uncomfortable emotion is. Ask yourself if that's got any validity to it. Is it just this bullshit story that's going around my mind? Listen, if you're trying to pinpoint it and you're thinking, I don't know why, I procrastinate and then my energy just leaves me and I don't know why. That's not a valid reason, right? That's a story inside your head. It's coming in from subconscious triggers and you may not even see them, but it's not a real threat right in front of you. Otherwise, you'd be able to tell. If it was a lion, right in front of you, opening their mouth to chop your head off, you'd be able to tell, right?
Well, that's the difference between danger and fear, though, right?
Right.
Danger is like imminent, is real. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's a story, and that's what we want people to pay attention to is that bullshit story.
Yeah, where's
of
it
what you
coming
think
from?
is going to go wrong, right? Like,
Again, just to kind of recap before we start signing off, it's important to understand where that story is coming from, right? If the stagnation that you're going through right now, if you're procrastinating on anything, does it have any validity? Is there anything that that has real substance to it, or is it just rational fear to picking up the phone and having conversations with people? Is it a rational fear to sticking to a program or training and I don't know, jumping in the cold water, whatever that is, right? Ask yourself that question and then do a self audit. One thing that I like doing is, and this is an old school type of exercise, right? But I like to think about the benefits and the features. I know it's not, it's cliche, it's marketing 1950s and whatnot.
Cost benefit analysis, man.
When I think about what I'm doing or an action, a project or something that I want to take on, and I mean, for example, the concept of feeling wealthy, right? Like that's okay. What's wealthy? I don't know. It's $10 million in the bank account. What I can picture $10 million in the bank account, right? Just see the number, but there's no emotion behind it. So when I think about the features and the benefits, and to me, that's just, how I'm able to pull it out of myself, right? All right, cool. What are the benefits? Well, I mean, time freedom and then travel. And then, I just spent last week in Puerto Rico doing some work and then just disconnecting because I think it's a great thing to do every now and then. But it's like, that has emotion to it, right? So doing a self-assessment of the features and the benefits of whatever it is that you're going through and that you're procrastinating on, right? Try to connect to that positive side of the emotions, not the uncomfortable ones, and then help you, move or help yourself move through those waters.
Yeah. Well, you change the story, you'll change the emotions behind it. You change the story, which changes the emotions, you'll change the behavior.
Yeah.
You change the behavior, you change the results. So really, if you want to transform your life, you've got to create more compelling stories.
Yeah. So a recap on how to stop procrastination. Give me the 3 bullet points.
Yeah. So, well, I thought I just did, man. Okay. So, again, the awareness of procrastination, like I'm not a victim. This isn't happening to me. I'm responsible. I have the ability to respond. And so what's stopping me? I'm uncomfortable. Great. Why? There's a story going on of what I think is going to go wrong. Yeah. So all I got to do is be with that and create a new compelling story. Yeah. Feed it, pay attention to it, and then foster that state, those emotions, that feeling, that mood. Take action. You can still be scared and do it anyways. Do you know what I mean? Like, who the fuck said you got to be comfortable all the time?
Yeah.
Your comfort's killing you and your results.
Yeah.
So I can be courageous by being scared and doing it anyways, and that's something you cultivate. So give yourself new evidence through experience by taking action that these are just, my mind is full of bullshit stories. Yeah. And the only way to transcend that is to give it a new experience to prove it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just going to have to take action and think about what you're not going to accomplish, what you're not going to achieve if you don't take action.
Right.
So delete that word procrastination from your vocabulary, because again, I think it's a very victim word. Like, oh, distractions happened to me. Procrastination happened to me. No, it didn't. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that self-audit of, let me just have an honest conversation with myself about what's really going on.
Love it, man. It can get tricky, right? When there's three different minds just battling it out in your head. I mean, you know which one you're going to give power to. So think about that for a second.
Call it me, myself, and I. No.
Yeah, Me, Myself, and Irene. Remember that movie? I think that was, actually, that's a really good depiction of that entire process.
Totally. Well, then you got the conscious, subconscious mind. It's all one mind, you know?
It's just compiled, and it's, it's talking like the, I don't know, the picture of the angel and the devil in the shoulder. I mean, it's crazy, right? But understanding it and put whatever picture you want that works for you. Like at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Yeah. You are going to have different thoughts within the same mind. They're conflicting thoughts. They're coming in, from different areas of your subconscious. But ultimately, we have the ability to empower the one we want. Do we want to empower that, that super ego side of it that takes us to that accomplishment side, that takes us to that biggest and best version of ourselves? Or do we want to empower the other side, like the ID, which is all about instant gratification, avoiding discomfort and staying in the comfort zone forever and no progress, that sort of thing. So, Justin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, where is the best place to get you at?
Yeah, man, my cell phone, 602-348-8534, justinthorstad.com, Facebook, IG, just anywhere.
Savage. IG, Justin Thorstad. That's your handle?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not your secretary. I don't know your handle.
Look it up, bro.
Look it up, bro. All right. Do us a favor. If you like the content that we're putting out there for you guys on a regular basis, subscribe, like, and share. Send this out to somebody who you think might benefit from listening to this kind of stuff. If you guys have questions, if there's a topic that you want us to tackle, this is a two-way street, right? It may not feel like it because it's a podcast, but it is a two-way street. We look at all messages. We look at social media. We consider all that stuff. We have powwow sessions before we jump live, and then we talk about the stuff that would most benefit, create the most value out for the audience. So that's all you guys. Help us out. And yeah, drop comment, subscribe, like, and share. If you want to get a hold of me, the best place to reach me at is going to be social media. I'm pretty active on IG at Rafael Cortez, CEO. And until next time, we'll catch you guys soon. Stay focused. You got this. Boom.